is quite a wide top, so the wide course unit. Though there are areas that I guess most of us are familiar with, yeah, right from descriptive statistics that were explained briefly last week, and quite a number of others. So what I was suggesting is there are some sections of the I'm seeing someone talking about big data. Is it the big data in real sense? Oh, data bundles. Okay. So we are on terminologies and concepts. Are we present? Are we present, colleagues?
Yes, doctor.
All right. Okay. So we are going to define some of the terminologies used in statistics, biostatistics, SEM. They define them the same way. So the very obvious one is data. One would look at it as unprocessed facts. That's what data is. When you process that data, then we know it is called information. Now, a definition there has written a set of values of one or more variables recorded, one or more observational units. Our point is you are recording facts about an individual. What is his weight? What is his height? What is the body mass index? Of course, that is computed. That's not recorded. But we can record the machines that do that recording. So that's what our data is. What could be the source of this data? In facilities, medical facilities, any other units, there are records that are routinely collected. As someone enters, that record is collected. As he moves out, it's corrected. So say such and such a person entered this time, went out. That's routinely kept records, can be a source of our data. We can say, such as a census. You know, that's a word that is misused by many people. But a census is a process that's what is applied on the whole population of interest, such as the national census. The intention is to count every other individual. We don't go to a village and say we'll choose 5 houses and count. So our survey can be a census. It could be sampled out locations. But anyway, the point is we identify the subjects and go and collect data from them. In health science, we carry out experiments, and we're going to record results from that experiment between two, how they call it, compounds. What is the result? It's not just oxygen and something. We may collect quantitative data about that, resulting from that experiment. Through, of course, we can use a thermometer, carry out, measure, and others. There could be external sources. These external sources, someone has carried out research and you are taking advantage of it. You go there, get it. I know there's always a sensor, the whole country, after a given number of years, and now you're carrying out a research and you go out, do a survey of almost the same thing, and yet the records are there. So if your research is going to involve, this is an example, extreme example, we want to take the count of all people in the whole country. That's part of your project. Then you should give reason as to why you want to carry out that sensor again. And yet, there are records that have already been collected. So why don't we pick? So knowledge of what record is there can be helpful, because we may just jump onto going to interview people. And yet this has been carried out by very many other researchers. So we want to give strong reason as to why we're going ahead to collect data again. Our point again, external, why we're going out to bring data, possibly when if we'll be having together records, surveys, experiments, and external sources. This data can be categorized. Forgive my font size there. I just wanted to push it into one slide, but next time I can put it side by side. We'll improve on that. So data can be categorized in quite a number of ways, because I can't say, please explain the categories of data. You have to explain all the different categories, how they are categorized and the categories, the house categorized and the categories. So that's just very, it's a very, so that is normally categorized based on something. In this case, the source. So we have primary, we have secondary data. Primary, how do we look at it? This is data that you these guys are, yeah. So we are going to interview, we want to get information from students, lecturers, and others. So how do we do? Someone could design a questionnaire and give it to them. I know a number of you are going to design questionnaires and give it to them. One thing we want to remember is most of these questionnaires are not returned. So you take all possible ways, ensure all possible ways that you get as much of results as possible. So what do we do? Hard copy, use a hard copy, distribute and use soft copy and share. Just use a Google form, people feed that information. Some people don't like writing. Some people don't like the device. So if you do that, you are increasing on possibility of getting more feedback. That's questionnaire. We can use a record form. We can use interview questions. We use this earlier. But now that it is not you who collected, you the investigator were not the one who collected. But you want to take advantage of it. Such as we have records about the census report. Just go and pick or request to use. Or that has lots of information. You can request for part of that information. That is secondary data. So our category, basic on source, our primary and secondary. They also have qualitative and quantitative data based on the nature of the data or characteristic of the data. So, yeah, I brought in that element of variable because it was an aspect that comes up in our categories here. And if that which takes on value may keep changing. So our qualitative variable is the one that will be identified, normally identified by either name or categories. Excuse me, just want to put something in order here. Yes.
I think, Doctor, we are not seeing your presentation slides.
Yeah, sorry for that distraction. So let me just turn to my slides. Yep. So we're looking at categories of data, but element of variable crept in, and we're trying to appreciate what a variable is. Is that which takes more than one value. What is dynamic? It keeps changing. That is a variable. So qualitative variable or qualitative data is that data that can be. I pasted the wrong thing here. Please, let's first ignore and follow the explanation. Just ignore what is written there briefly and follow. We are going to get back to it. If it is qualitative data, then it can be only in the form, it can be named or categorized. So I would say, what is the sex of this person? He is female or is male. Yeah. So that is qualitative data.
Hello? Doctor, I think we are not seeing your screen.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to share. Thanks. Stop sharing. Then it means even the previous slides you didn't see. We started there, and the defined data, and the seed sources of data. We moved to categorizing data. We had primary data and secondary data, and looked at, explained the different ways in which we collect each of them. Here we're saying we're coming to another categorization based on the characteristics of what we are collecting. So if it is qualitative data, I was saying we first ignore the slide for a reason that we are using quantitative, which has to be qualified. I mean, qualitative to define quantitative was something I was trying to avoid. But our point is, it's not an error, but I didn't want to use quantitative to define qualitative. But our point is, if it is qualitative data, qualitative variable, then it only takes the form that can be identified by either a name, just name it, or a category. When I sit an exam, someone wants the result, you passed it, finished, named it, you've passed it, or you failed it. You can't say, what were the results of the exam? Then you say 30. That doesn't make sense. Of course, if I say, how many did you get in mathematics? That's a different thing. But I'm saying, what is the result? What is the final outcome? You either failed or you passed. Can we add failing plus passing? Or passing plus passing? You can't. Or I would place someone into a category such as his sex can be female or male. So this is an example of, these are examples of qualitative data. Of course, the reason why I didn't want to use quantitative is because we're defining quantitative next. Quantitative variable, quantitative data is that one that can be measured and expressed in numerical terms, numbers. You can put it in form of numbers. Say, someone says, please give us the height of those 5 students. 60, 50, 40, numerically you're giving the answer. The weight, the BP, of course, BP as we mentioned, I mean BMI as we mentioned earlier, is a computation, but how some devices measures exactly. It doesn't give you the mass and height and then you compute. It just gives you the BMI. It's the ratio of the mass and height. So these are examples. Now, within quantitative data, we have discrete, continuous. Within qualitative data, we also have categories, ordinal, nominal data. What are they? So this data is nominal. I mean, the nominal data, it basically represents categories. Yeah. Of course, those categories may not really be put in a certain order, but are just categories. Yes, that's nominal data. We have categories, but not in a particular order. We have ratio data. We know this is expressed as a ratio, comparison of 2. We have ordinal data. Why? Not why. Can someone volunteer and explain to us what ordinal data is by means of examples? Ratio data and then ordinal data. Anybody who can volunteer? If you just unmute and comment.
Hello.
Yes, continue. Yep.
I think ordinal data basically represents categories of data with an order or ranking, but when the ranking is not necessarily equal. So we can look at maybe like educational levels like P1, P2, like primary, secondary, undergraduate or graduate. Or we can look at pain severity, like in medicine, say like no pain, mild pain, moderate, or severe. So that's how I understand ordinal data.
Exactly, that's it. Thanks for putting that last example to fix us where we belong, health science and biology. Yeah, that's it. But it would be good for us to, for purposes of convincing ourselves, just look at other examples as we do our research. Thanks. So let's proceed. What about numerical data? Quantitative, that is. Should I put here quantitative? Now, that numerical data can be discrete and continuous. The discrete is not in the sense of being discrete or being discerning, no. It is how the data can be represented, presented. So we have discrete data and continuous data. So what is this discrete data? Discrete data is data that takes on, is the simplest way I think we can put it, that takes on countable values. Yes, that's a good representation. Data that takes on countable values. If you remember the different types of number, rational numbers, complex numbers, counting whole numbers. So this discrete data